Good morning or good afternoon to everyone, depending on where you are joining us from. This is Dave Allison with Clarity to Prosperity, and we are going to get started in just a moment here. I'm watching the screen. We have a ton of people logging in, so really excited. So many people are taking advantage of today's training session, and we are just going to get started in about 1 minute, just letting the last of the registrants get logged in. So appreciate everyone's patience, and we'll get started here shortly. All right, just another minute here. I am starting to see the attendees get settled in. So great to see so many familiar names attending the event. We have a lot of participation going on right now. Now there's a whole big uptick of people coming in. So really good to see. Again, this is Dave Allison, Executive Vice President of Clarity to Prosperity. And just a bit of a preview of the event while the last of our participants are logging in. Yeah, a couple comments already coming in. Doesn't Dave know any good jokes? And certainly that's not why you joined. My jokes are not funny. But a little bit of the preview of today's event. We're excited to bring a unique experiential training to help you deal with some of the issues that we're all facing today, which is really being stuck at home, homeschooling, work-life balance, economic downturn, and all of these other things that could have negative repercussions on our overall mindset. And so today we're going to focus on maintaining the right mindset for growth, prosperity, and positivity. This training's been designed to be engaging and will give you practical, skill-based information that can be used right away. And so just a little bit of the structure for today. We're going to go for about 60 minutes. Then we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to resume again. So if you haven't had lunch yet, hopefully during that 10-minute break, you can go ahead and get a quick bite to eat. Everybody is going to be muted, and so there's not going to be a lot of feedback noise. The webinar and the training is going to be recorded. So after the event, if you want to go back or share it with colleagues or team members, you can go ahead and do that. And we'd strongly encourage you to grab a pen, piece of paper, take detailed notes throughout the training. This information, the information that gets absorbed is going to work that much better. And then last but not least, you're going to be able to submit questions throughout the chat feature. So we will try to answer the questions during this training, but if for whatever reason we cannot get to your question during this training, we'll make sure to get you an answer. And so I want to have a big thank you to Casey, who's going to be really working hard behind the scenes to ensure that we have a great experience. She's going to be helping facilitate a lot of the questions over to Chris. And so with that being said, I really want to take a moment to introduce Chris. I was out at the Ed Slott event in San Francisco, and I had the opportunity to meet a lady named Susan who she's a board member at the FPA, the National FPA chapter, or not chapter, but the National Financial Planning Association. And I was sharing with her about our group and Clarity and our core values and really how we work with and support advisors. And we started talking about doing training, and she started sharing the importance of mindset and a big area of how mindset can help us all excel. I mean, we all know that sometimes half the battle is what's going on between our ears. And she had shared that she's got a colleague in Chris Halboom, who is an internationally recognized trainer, author, and executive coach. And Chris is the co-founder of the NLP, which is Neuro-Linguistic Programming. So the NLP Coaching Institute, and she is the co-creator of the Wealthy Mind program. which has been taught to live audiences in over 20 different countries. And she has helped coach thousands of people to create more of what they want in their lives. Actually, I was talking to Chris, I believe over the weekend or on Friday, and I think you were supposed to be doing a live session in Hong Kong during this time period, but we all know with the travel bans, you're not able to get out there. But Chris is recognized for her ability to translate complex ideas into practical skills and for her warm, approachable style. She's trained and coached clients throughout the United States, Mexico, Canada, Europe, Japan, Australia, and Russia. And she's a contributing author to the books Alternative Medicine, The Definitive Guide, and Powerful Questions and Techniques for Coaching and Therapists, and last but not least, Innovations in NLP. She's produced numerous video, audio downloads on wealth consciousness, positive psychology, and systems thinking. And so without further ado, let's jump right in, and a warm welcome and thank you for spending the next couple hours with us to Chris.
Thank you, Dave, for this, and thank you to the whole Clarity to Prosperity team. I'm really happy to be here, and actually I was supposed to be in Tokyo at this time training, and then from there I was to fly to Paris, and so it worked out just perfectly for me to be here with all of you and to be able to stay home. It's actually been the first time I've been home this time of year, not out training somewhere, in about 7 or 8 years. So I'm really enjoying the spring weather, and I'm especially very happy to be with you. And so, like Dave said, many people around the world are experiencing a lot of stress, anxiety, uncertainty, overwhelm, brain fog. When this whole pandemic started, it was actually quite shocking, I think, for a lot of people. I was actually training in Tokyo. I was there in about the middle of February when it started happening. So I saw the effects of it before a lot of people did here in the States. And as we all know, it has just impacted our whole society. It's impacted us, and a lot of people are having to stay home now. They're feeling really stressed out and then overwhelmed, like Dave said, with all of the, money issues and having to homeschool kids and all of those things. So one of my goals is to help give you some practical skills that you can use to be able to have more of peace of mind, more of an inner state of resilience, to be more calm and to be more present and to be more focused and to be more resilient. And so what I'd like to share with you is that there's actually 5 themes to this program. So, Casey, go back one slide if you can. Can you go back one slide? Yeah, thanks. This, just by the way, if you look at the picture of me on the left, that's when I was in Tokyo, and you can't really quite see it, but about half the people in that picture were wearing masks during that time. So it's kind of interesting. Anyway, as I said, I'm really happy to be here with you. So if you could go to the next slide now, Casey. So these are going to be the 5 themes for the program. And so the first one is about, like I said earlier, I want you to leave these 2 hours with the know-how and the actual skills and some techniques and processes that are going to allow you to maintain a positive state of mind no matter what happens. So it's really easy throughout the day to get thrown off balance. And as you're dealing with your clients and even as you're dealing with your families, it's really important to be able to get back to that center focus and to be more present. So that's going to be the first theme, is really how to maintain a positive state of mind and just become resilient so nothing can throw you off course. The next item, number 2, is really exploring the power of being focused and in the present moment. And so if you think about times when you have been at your very best, when you've been in flow states, when everything's going well, in a sense, you lose track of time. And part of that is being very present and being very focused. And so the great thing about some of the mindset tools I'm going to teach you is they're going to help you really be in your body and be more present and focused, which is really a very powerful place to be. And then we're going to spend some time talking about how to intentionally create the future that you want to achieve any goal. And these could be little goals or big goals. And if you think about it, every time you get on the phone with a client and you're advising them in one way or another, part of that is your clients are going to have some type of a goal in terms of their finances, whether it's small or whether it's big. And so I'm going to share with you a great process to help people truly, truly create the future that they want, and also to remove any unconscious barriers that could keep you or could keep your clients from really having what they want. And of course, that ties us into the 4th phase, which is updating your beliefs and your unconscious stories that you tell yourself so that you can be more peaceful and successful at work, because your beliefs really do truly drive your experience. And they're very, very unconscious, as are the unconscious stories that you tell yourself. And so what happens is when you update your beliefs and you update your stories and you're being more present and focused and you're feeling more peaceful and happy, then not only are you going to be able to achieve more of what you want, but you're going to be able to help your clients achieve more of what they want. And the great thing about what I'm doing is that you can take these skills and you can use them also with your family. So they can be used in several different contexts. And then lastly, I'm going to be giving you several different little mindset practices that you can start doing daily that are super easy to do with yourself and with others and with your clients. And so one of my main focuses, or my intent, is that everyone leave this program today feeling super smart and feeling like you have some skills that you can take away with you and put to use right away. And with that, Casey, could you flash to me now so I can look at the camera and everyone can see me? Hi. So this is my home in Holiday, Utah, and it's really good to see all of you. And just a really quick note about me before we continue on. I have been very passionate about the whole idea of how we create reality, how we create our experience, how we create our future, and how that all ties into how we create success and money and wealth, and the whole idea of wealth consciousness. For about 25 years now, I've been actively studying it. And where it all started, it's one of those classic stories that you read about in books. I was, 25. I was really broke. I was in debt. I was living in this really tiny apartment and really miserable. And I worked for this training organization, and I was a marketing director, a director of marketing and public relations at the time, but just not making a lot of money. And anyway, one of the students that came through one of our trainings happened to be a financial advisor. And at the time, I was also working as a professional writer and again, not making much money for that, but writing articles about psychology and about NLP and neuro-linguistic programming. And so this financial advisor said, hey, I'd love you to write an article about what I do. And so I spent the next 6 months really actively modeling him and modeling what he did. But it was more from his mindset, because this guy was a genius with money. As a matter of fact, he's my accountant now, and and I've been working with him ever since. But we ended up publishing an article, and it was called The Psychology of Money, Prosperity, and Abundance. And what I learned in working with him and in writing this article, because as I said, it took about 6 months of research, is that the whole idea of success and wealth really is an inner experience. And that, wealth is really like an inner state of mind. And not only that, but that our outer reality is a reflection of our inner reality. And that inner experience ties into our beliefs about who we are in the world, our state of mind, our unconscious stories or stories that we tell ourselves, just our thoughts. All of that ties in to how we create reality. And there's actually a neuroscientific reason behind all of that I won't get into now. I'll tell you later about why that is. But I know it might sound like a bunch of new age fluff or something, that our outer reality is connected to our inner reality. But there are some things that happen in the brain that when you start changing the stories you tell yourself, when you start changing your beliefs, when you start changing actively and consciously your state of mind and how you think about money and how you think about wealth and how you think about your future, then you're going to start seeing results immediately in your outer world. And so what was really strange that happened to me was in the 6 months that I started working, this fellow's name's Armand, and who's the financial advisor that I was writing the article with. And by the end of the 6 months, when I finally we co-published the article together on money, prosperity, and wealth. And by the way, it went viral, which was kind of neat. But what happened is I managed to get myself completely out of debt. I got this massive raise at work. I suddenly had, well, for me at the time, $5,000 in my savings account, which was like huge. And I set the intent that I would never be in debt again, and I haven't. And that was like 27 years ago. And the only thing that seriously changed was how I thought about money. It was my inner relationship with how I thought about money, with how I thought about wealth. It was my state of mind, my attitudes, my beliefs, my thinking, all of that. So that was a huge learning. And as a result, I've been a student of wealth consciousness and the whole idea of how we create reality. Actually, I wrote an ebook on that's on one of my websites called thewealthymind.com on the magic of bring forthism and how we create reality. And it will be that ebook talks a lot about what I'm going to be sharing with you now. So now you fast forward, and I ended up moving to the San Francisco Bay Area about 20 years ago, and started a training organization there that Dave called the NLP Coaching Institute of California. And one of the first programs that my partner and I developed was a program called The Wealthy Mind. And again, the backstory on that program and how it was developed is really interesting because it ties into the finance industry, so to speak. But my partner was hired by a group of day traders who worked every day with the stock market, and they were using what's called the Wyckoff method for trading, which I'm sure some of you have heard of. And anyway, The reason why they hired him is because they recognized that when they were trading, that if they got in a fear-induced state of mind, that would impact their ability to be able to trade effectively and even to follow the Wyckoff method. And so, for example, one of the guys was working, doing trading one day, and all of a sudden the market took just a huge drop, and he completely freaked out. And anyway, long story short, he lost $11,000 in 10 minutes. Now, if he had not let the fear get the best of him and he had followed the Wyckoff method, then he would have just been fine. And so what he brought my partner in for was to help him manage his state while he was training. Now, in my world, we call that state management. And actually, this is going to be so hard because I'm trying to take the best of what I do in 2 hours and give it to you. But I have, most of my trainings are like 2 to 3 days to 10 days long. And I have some days where trainings I can just spend an entire day on state management. But anyway, what this trader wanted was he really wanted to be able to be confident and to be able to be resilient and to be in a flow state and to really be, on his best game when he was trading. And so with that, my partner and I became so fascinated by all of that and by how our state of mind affects our relationship with wealth. And I'd already been a student of wealth consciousness that we created this 2-day program called The Wealthy Mind that really deals with our, our beliefs, our thoughts, our state of mind, all of that. So the reason why I'm sharing all of this with you is to let you know that number one, this is something I'm very passionate about. I've been studying for a long time, and I've learned so much in studying it over the years, and I've been able to share it with people all over the world, with my clients, in my own life. And so I'm super excited to be able to share this with you. And so with that, let's go to the next slide, Casey. So this is a slide, and before we click on the video here, this is it's a video of Bianca Andreescu, and I don't know if any of you know her, but she's a 19-year-old who just beat Serena Williams in the U.S. Open. And one of the things that she talks about in this very brief video is all about the power of having a positive mind state, the power of creative visualization. And she had been doing a lot of the mindset practices that I'm going to be sharing with you today to basically unseat Serena Williams. And just so you know, that the practice of mindfulness and having a positive mindset right now it's been around for a long time. I mean, a lot of really famous people just naturally practice this, especially athletes. But if you look at a lot of actresses or business people, even practice different mindfulness and positive mindset strategies. And as I said, I'll be sharing some with you in the time we have together. And just so if you don't know what mindfulness is, it's a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings and thoughts, and ultimately just being in the present moment, because the present is really a place of power. And so a couple ways you can get there, and I'll talk about more about this later, but meditation is one, and creative visualization is another. I know Steve Jobs was a big meditator back in the day. The practice of mindfulness and having a positive mindset right now is really huge in Silicon Valley, which is where Google is. It's in the Silicon Valley is in the San Francisco Bay Area. For those of you that don't know, but it's where Google is and Facebook is and, you know, Apple computers and a lot of the big Fortune 50 companies. So it's something that's really huge right now, where people are really consciously setting the intent to be the best version of themselves. Now I love this video because when I heard now, oh, can you turn it off just for, yeah, thanks. I love this video because this really caught my attention when I saw this come out in the news outings when she had just first when she had first won the U.S. Open. They asked her, you know, how do you think you did this? And she attributes the power of visualization and having a good mindset. Now in this video, she had just won the U.S. Open and had come out of it and is very kind of emotional and tired. But just watch it here and you'll get a sense of what having a really good mindset, how powerful that can be. So if you run it now, Casey, thanks. Is the sound on, Casey? I can't hear it.
Yeah, let me check here.
Yeah, sorry about that. We're having a minor technical difficulty. This is where I wish I could sing. I don't sing. I'm a terrible singer. Otherwise, I would sing you a song.
Sorry, I
Okay.
think we're gonna have to skip the
Yeah.
video. I'm
Hey,
sorry about
Casey,
that.
can you hear the video on your end, Casey?
I cannot.
Okay, that's okay. We'll just skip it. It's just a 90-second video, so we'll skip it. And yeah, go back to me, please. You can just put the camera back on me, if you would. Yeah. So basically, in the video, she is attributing the fact that she had used the power of creative visualization. And what that is where she literally had been visualizing winning the US Open for a long time. And then not only that, when she found out she was going to be playing Serena Williams, she started visualizing that. And so she would take 10 or 15 minutes every morning and just visualize, you know, what she wanted. And I'm sure some of you are already doing this. But the other thing that this young tennis player did is she practiced meditation. And so those are just a couple of things that you can do to really up your game. I do a lot of coaching in addition to training. And one of the I guess I had a young 24-year-old CEO hire me a couple of years ago to do coaching with him for a startup company that he had in California. And I can't say his name because I have a non-disclosure agreement. But at the time when we started, basically he had just started the company. And I started working with him and probably did over 50 hours of coaching around the things that I'm going to be, you know, sharing with you. And in that 18 months, his company went from zero to $22 million. And he ended up bringing me in to work with, you know, all of his key staff. So his CFO and the chief of staff and the vice president and the sales manager. And we were doing a lot of what I'm going to be sharing with you. But one of the things that I thought was interesting that he started doing with his staff is he started having his staff every morning for 10 minutes in a staff meeting. Together, they would start visualizing going unicorn. Now, I don't know how many of you know what that means in business, the business terminology of becoming a unicorn. But a unicorn is when a business suddenly just explodes, like what happened, like Facebook is a unicorn, Apple is a unicorn, Microsoft is a unicorn, Uber was a unicorn, is a unicorn, Airbnb. So this is when an organization just suddenly mushrooms and it goes unicorn. And the reason why they call it a unicorn is because it's such an anomaly and it's not very common. And so this CEO started doing that with his whole staff every morning, having everyone visualize the company doing that. And I mean, that's just amazing in an 18-month period to go from 0 to $22 million. And now I know he's hitting the $100 million range at like the 2.5-year mark, and he's got 30 employees, and it's just been amazing. So as I was saying at the beginning of this webinar, your inner experience and your inner thoughts, your inner beliefs are directly related to what you create outside of you. Ernest Holmes, who was a science of mind practitioner, said, life is a mirror and will reflect back to the thinker what he thinks into it. So life is a mirror and will reflect back to the thinker what he thinks into it. Now, there's a neuroscientific reason for why this happens. It's like I said earlier, it's not a bunch of new age fluff. You have a part in your brain called the reticular activating system, okay? And I just call it the RAS for short. But the reticular activating system is actually located right at the base of your skull. And that is the part of your brain that gets you to filter for reality. So I'll give you a quick example that I think everyone can relate to. Have you ever had a time where you wanted to buy like a car, like a certain kind of a car, or you think about selling your house or something? And like for me, I have the fantasy of getting a Tesla. I would love to get a Tesla. And so it's funny because every time it's like I see Teslas everywhere. And that didn't start happening until I started thinking about getting a Tesla. Or I remember years ago, I was thinking about selling my house. And then suddenly it was like everybody's house was for sale. But that's just because I had put that in my mind that that's what I wanted to do. And then suddenly, boom, it pops up. And so that's what the RAS does, is it brings foreground things that you're thinking about. So go ahead now and you can flip to the next slide, if you will, Casey. So these are the 5 keys to consciously creating wealth and success through the art of what I call bring forthism. It's a word I coined. I have an ebook that's on bring forthism that I wrote, but it's really about how to consciously create what you want and reprogram your reticular activating system to really start sorting for what it is that you want. And so the 5 key areas that I'm going to focus on today are your attention. So one is where you put your attention. And like I said, if you're putting your attention in a negative place, then that's what you're programming to your RAS. And that's what is going to come back to you. You're going to start sorting for those negative experiences. The next one is, so attention is one of the 5 things. Your state of mind is another one. Your goals. And I have a comprehensive process for setting goals that I'll share with you, so that sometimes we set goals that really aren't well formed. We think they are, but they're not. And we end up unconsciously sabotaging ourselves, which is the reason why people don't achieve goals when they want. And then there's also your intent or your intention, and there's your the beliefs and the stories that you tell yourself. And so when you combine these 5 things, that is basically a formula for how you create reality. Now we put beliefs and stories there at the bottom because they're kind of the linchpin that holds everything together. And so the beliefs and the stories that you have will impact all of those other things. There's a great book written by a guy named Bruce Lipton called The Biology of Belief, and I don't know if anyone's read that book. But so it's Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief. But what he says is, he's talking about the whole chemistry and structure and neurobiology of the brain. And he says we take in about 2 billion bits of information per second, which I know is kind of hard to believe. But he says we can only process consciously 2,000 bits. And those 2,000 bits come from our beliefs. And our beliefs are really hold the structure of how we create reality. So so your beliefs can have a tremendous impact on you. So if somebody has a belief like I'm not good enough or I don't deserve to have what I want, then it's going to unconsciously influence their ability to set goals. It's going to influence where they put their focus on, their state of mind, their intent. And that was a belief, I had in my mid 20s, was I just had basically a belief that, money was for other people, but it wasn't for me. And not only that, but I had a belief that money causes pain because, my parents went through a really bad divorce when I was young, and there was some pain around money. And so what happens is when you hold a belief like that, and everybody's got beliefs at one level or another, not just about money, but about everything, then you unconsciously sabotage yourself to not get what you want. So I'd like to talk about this alignment chart a little bit. And if you look at that first one, attention. So your attention, again, that's basically just what you're thinking about in the moment. And by the way, you can think of this as keys for how you can reprogram your reticular activating system to get more of what it is that you want with yourself and with your clients and your families, and really, truly, consciously create a future that you want, because we're all unconsciously or consciously creating our future, and it's a choice. Do you want to go about it consciously and get more of what you want, or do you want to just be unconscious about it and let reality present whatever is sifting around there inside of your unconscious mind? And I know people like that, and it's really hard. I've got friends who are just kind of flying through the seat of their pants. They can barely pay their rent. One friend couldn't pay his rent and is completely broke and has no savings, like a lot of people right now. And it's just maddening to me because I know it's his mindset. So with this, attention really has to do with your thoughts. It has to do with your self talk. It has to do with your focus. So, and if you see in that chart, it says energy flows where attention flows. So if you think about it, have you ever noticed that, like, when you're in a really good mood, and I call these green light days, and you're in a good mood and you're trying to get somewhere, and it's like all green lights, and you get there and it's all good. And then you have those days where you're like in a really bad mood and you're upset about something and you're trying to get somewhere, and you get behind the slowest driver in the world, and then you hit every red light. And again, there's a lot to your state of mind and your attitude and how you create your experience. And one of those key things is how you focus and what your attention is on. Now, the next one is your state of mind, and some of the things that drive your state of mind are your physiology. So the way that you hold your body, and your state of mind is really, it's your thoughts, your attitudes, your emotions, it's your physiology, it's all of that. And that in of itself can also create your experience. And like I said, part of that is how you hold your body. And so, Casey, can you flash on me for a minute? And I want to give you all an experience now. So I don't know how you're sitting or where you are or what you're doing, but I just want to give you an experience in terms of showing you how your physiology can drive your state of mind and your emotions, and in a sense even affect your where you put your attention and your focus. And so, just for fun, try this with me for a minute. But if you're not already doing it, sit way back in your chair like this, and then notice me sitting back. And obviously, I kind of go dark on the camera and stuff like that. But as you can notice, I'm not as fun to listen to probably right now. I'm probably not as fun to watch either. But just notice how you feel when you're sitting like this. Maybe you feel relaxed, maybe you feel calm, that type of thing. Okay, now sit up and sit straight and arch your back up and notice what that's like. And just notice what you notice inside of you. And you can even tilt your head just a little bit forward. Take a deep breath. And really feel your back straight up. Your shoulders are back. Your head is slightly forward. You're listening to me like you're really interested in what I'm saying. Okay. Now, I know a lot of you talk on the phone with your clients, and you have different people you talk on the phone with in business, or even different people on Zoom. And imagine, have you ever had that time where you're sitting in your office and you're just on the phone like this, and notice what that's like and the difference. And so one of the things is, just even making a slight adjustment in your physiology can totally change your state of mind. I have to fly a lot because of my my business. Like, for example, in January, I was at a leadership worldwide leadership meeting in Alicante, Spain, and I had to fly from Spain to Tel Aviv, Israel, and because I had to do a training there the next day. And anyway, long story short, just one bad thing after another happened, and it took forever to get to the hotel. We finally get in there. It's really late at night, and then they don't have our reservation. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And then I find out that I have to train the next day at 8 a.m. in the morning, and I don't normally start training till 10. And I'm on European time to boot and already feeling jet lagged. And so this is where this idea of employing, state of mind, where I put my focus, setting intent, all of that, I had to buck it up. And it's just like you do right now when you're on the phone with your clients or you're interfacing with people. You've got to buck it up, and you've just got to show up, and you've got to be your best self. And so for me, finally, by the time I got into my room in Israel, my hotel room, we did finally get one. I was trying to be super positive about the whole thing and just trying my best to have a good state of mind, which I did. And even though the hotel said it was sold out and they didn't have a room, and we sat there at the desk for like an hour and a half, trying to figure out what was going to happen, we ended up getting a room and we ended up getting upgraded. And so that was great. But a lot of that was, I was just doing my best to be, to trust that it was all going to work out. But then the next day I had to get up and I had to be in front of a group of people in Israel who I'd never met before at 8 a.m. in the morning. And so that was one of the things I did is when I train, I play with my physiology a lot. And so I notice if I'm tired or if the group is looking tired, then all I have to do is adjust my physiology. And not only does that change the experience for me, but it impacts the experience of the group because we're a system, right? And so because of that, how you present yourself with your clients, with your customers, even with your family, is going to influence them. And so you want to be on your best game with your customers and with your clients. And so one way is to really be focused, notice where you're putting your attention, be focused, be present, be in the moment. Also adjusting your physiology. And Casey, if you would go back to the screen now, thanks. So that's state of mind. And of course, there's your attitude too. And if you look at all the arrows, all of these things affect each other. So you have your attention, your self-talk, your focus, the way you not only talk to yourself, but talk to others, your physiology, your emotions. Those are all going to have a tremendous impact on the experience that you have of reality in a moment-to-moment situation. So the more present you can be, the more focused you can be, the more you can be in charge of your physiology, then the greater the experience that you're going to have. And I'll give you one more fun experience with physiology. Casey, and this is a quick one. Could you flash back to me again really fast? Okay, this one is one that kids really love a lot. But I think everything that works well with kids works well with adults. So one thing is if you're sitting, is just kind of, let your shoulders slump down and look down and just notice what that's like right now. And then put your hands up in the air and smile. And just, and you can even put your hands out and, act like, you're a king or a queen and, look around at you and, just think, yeah, I'm in charge here, right? And so you can put your hands back down. It's really funny because years ago I was visiting some relatives in Chicago. I'm actually from the Midwest and have a lot of family in Illinois and Indiana. And one of the young kids was really having a bad day. He was only 8 years old at the time. His name was Warren, one of my little nephews. And so I just taught him that thing. I said, well, put your hands up in the air, smile, bounce around. And it was funny because 5 years went by. I went back to see him again, and now he was 13 and his voice was kind of deeper. And we were just sitting around having a meal, and all of a sudden he popped up and he said, you know what, Aunt Chris, you know what the coolest thing is that I've ever learned? And I said, what? And he went, and so I thought that was really neat that, 5 years later that he remembered all of that. And I know it's silly, But if you're in a good mood and you're feeling happy, then that's going to allow the people around you to be happy too. So anytime you're feeling down or out or frustrated or beat up by reality or what's going on with this pandemic, just try adjusting your physiology. Do what you can to be more present and to be more focused. Can you put it back on the screen again for me, Casey? Thanks. Now, the next one that I'm going to talk about is this whole idea of setting your intent. And we set our intent all the time, and we do it. Sometimes we do it consciously, sometimes unconsciously. But how many of you have had a time where you're going to either a sporting event or a rock concert or somewhere where you know that parking is going to be an issue? And so you turn to whoever's in the car and you say, okay, start visualizing a parking spot. Start trying to find, just in your mind, imagine that there's going to be a parking spot there. Or you have a favorite restaurant that you like to go. And so, in your mind, or you're telling somebody, okay, visualize us getting a booth, a booth, a booth. We want a booth. We don't want one of those tables. We want a booth. Okay. So that's a form of setting your intent for the experience that you want to have. And the thing is we set our intent like that all the time, but why not set your intent in a really big way? Like every time you sit down on the phone or a video call with a customer or a client, set your intent for the kind of experience that you want to have. If you have a big business meeting coming up, set your intent to be alert, to be focused, to be relaxed. Whenever you go out to dinner with your friends, or for now, I guess you're home with your family, you can set your intent for everyone to feel connected and to have fun. And that in of itself is another way to create reality and to create your experience and to be creating the future that you want in a moment to moment time. Now, the word intent comes from the Latin intendo, which means to stretch forward. So when you set your intent, it's as if some higher part of you is stretching outward to bring forth what it is that you want. And you can do this in big ways, or you can do this in small ways. There's so many different ways you can set your intent. I had a funny experience a couple of years ago where I was on it was an international flight. I think I was going to Japan or maybe Europe. I can't remember. It was a long time ago, but anyway, it was one of those deals where we had been sitting on the airplane, the jet engines went off. We go out on the runway, the airplane stops, and we sit there for 3 hours. And not only that, but we're going to have another 12 hours to go before we have to get to our final destination. So that adds 3 hours onto the flight. And everybody was really, really, really grumpy and in a really, really bad mood. And so I told the, one of the flight attendants that walked by me, what I said to her is I said, I know everybody on this airplane is really grumpy and it's probably not very much fun for you right now, but I'm going to set my intent to be in a positive state of mind throughout the whole flight and to have a really good experience. And I just wanted to let you know that. Because sometimes when you set your intent out loud, you don't have to, but when you do, that can make it all the more powerful. Actually, when I train, I set my intent. If I have like a translator or an interpreter, which I do a lot of times, or a co-trainer, I set my intent, or together we'll all set our intent for how we want the training to go. And I set my intent every time I work with a client. And so I set my intent and told the flight attendant this. And so it was really funny because for the rest of the flight, every time she walked by me, she would say, "Oh, it's you. You're the happy one." And then she started, I was in business class and the wine is free up there. And so then she just started pouring me wine like crazy for the whole flight. And I mean, that was nice and it was a lot of fun and I had a great time. But the next flight, I had to set my intent to just limit myself to one glass of wine. But when you set your intent, again, because we're a system, right? Then you are literally influencing the system around you. So if you set your intent to be present, to be focused, to be alert, to be positive with your customers or with your clients or even with your children or your spouse, that is going to make a huge difference for you and for the quality of your experience. And especially if you're being conscious of your physiology, how you're holding your body, and you're being present, and you're being focused, and you're being in the moment, that is going to make a huge difference in the quality of your experience that you have with people. And so I'd love to for you to really experiment with the idea of setting an intent after this call, because this is one of the takeaways, and it's really easy. All you do is you just say to yourself, I intend to have a great meal tonight, or like I don't like red meat. I never have. It's since I was a little kid. It's not that I'm a vegetarian. I just don't like it. But my husband loves red meat. He loves steak, and so I have to cook that for him sometimes. And I don't. So long story short, I do it on even little things. Like I set my intent to cook it just perfectly for him because versus messing it up, because sometimes we negatively set our intent. I mean, think about how many times you've gone to a party and there's somebody you don't want to see there, and then you're saying, oh, I don't want to see so and so, I don't want to see them, oh God, don't let them talk to me, don't let them talk to me. And then what happens? Boom, they just come right up and there they are in your face, and it's like your worst nightmare coming true. Well, that's because you have just programmed your reticular activating system by setting your intent to not see that person. And so that's the thing is, and in a moment we're going to break, but before we do, in about 5 minutes we'll break. The thing is that when you do set your intent or when you set goals, and I'll talk more about this, you want to make sure that they're in the positive versus the negative. So what I mean is, so if you go to the party and you're like, oh, I don't want to deal with this person, please don't let me see them, I hope they stay away from me, and then boom, there they are, right? So instead, what you would want to set your intent for is to have them, to go to the party. I'm setting my intent to go to the party. I'm going to have a really great time. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be focused. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to be connecting. I'm going to be loving. I'm going to be accepting. I'm going to make a new friend. I'm going to make a nice connection. And so now your brain has to focus on those things. It's like when you suddenly get curious about Teslas and you see Tesla, Tesla, Tesla. If you program your brain that way, that yeah, I want to meet somebody new, I want to be present, I want to be focused, I want to be confident, versus, oh, I don't want to see this person, I don't want to be around this person. And I'll give you a fun experience with this. Right now, I've got something I want you to think about. Okay, so here it is. I really do not think about a pink elephant with purple polka dots. Do not think about a purple elephant with pink polka dots. So what do you think about? You think about a purple elephant with pink polka dots. I know that's a silly example, but it's one of the reasons why you want things in the positive, because when you say, oh, I don't want to think this, I don't want to be negative, I don't want to be afraid, I don't want to have fear every time I trade, I don't want to mess it up with this client, I don't want to mess it up with this customer. Oh, I'm so nervous. I hope I get it right. These are all unconscious messages that you're sending to your reticular activating system. So instead, you want to state things in the positive for what you do want. I want to be present and focused and alert and confident with my client today or in that business meeting. I want to be loving and accepting when I talk to my son or my daughter. I want to make my wife or my husband feel really good about themselves. And so you want to think more about what you do want versus what you don't want. So, and there's a lot of
Hey, Chris,
magic.
I have a question for you real quick.
Sure.
A lot of us, when we're meeting with new prospective clients and kind of doing our first discovery meeting, would you see any value in sharing intent with them? You mentioned sharing it out loud can be powerful sometimes. Do you think it would help connect to the meeting and the relationship and the connection in sharing intent, or do you see it as being, something that's more internal?
Well, you can do it both ways. It's whatever you're most comfortable with. So it can be internal, but you can share it with the client or with the customer. I mean, I shared mine at the beginning of the meeting without, you probably might not have noticed it, but I actually said right at the beginning of the webinar that my intent is for everyone to leave feeling really super smart and like they've gotten some practical skills and information and that they can put it to use right away. And, one of my other intents is to make learning fun and easy for people. And I just slipped that right in there. And, you can do that sometimes with clients. I'll do that at the beginning of my call where I'll say, I just want to, let you know that my intent today is to really help you get the outcome that you want and to be present and focused and to really be here and hold the space for you and be a good listener. And you can say that and it doesn't sound weird, but you can do it internally too. And whether you do it internally or you do it out loud, it's going to be better than not doing it at all. So does that answer your question? Yes? Okay.
Yes, it does. Yep. Thanks.
Okay. So, and I'll just tell you one super short story before we break about the magic of intention, because it can be, you can have sometimes when you really truly set your intent, you can have these almost synchronistic things start happening. And years ago, this was one of the weirdest things that happened to me, and wonderfully weird when I started playing around with setting intent. But I was on a vacation in the Czech Republic. At the time, it was still called Czechoslovakia, but it was actually my first time to Europe. So this was a long time ago, and I had taken a side trip to the Czech Republic. And I don't know if anyone's been to the Czech Republic, but one of the things they're known for is their specialties is crystal items and glass. And not only that, it's beautiful and it's really inexpensive. And so, it was my first time to Europe. And so I was buying gifts for my whole family. And so it was really nice to kind of knock out the whole family with these cute little crystal figurines and crystal glasses and this and that. But there was one member in the family that I was just stumped and I didn't know what to get him. And I started panicking because it was the second to the last day I was going to leave and I was going to be giving the gifts to everybody at the same time. And this guy's name is Tom, and Tom drives a truck that is just massively huge. And he likes to hunt and he likes to fish, and he is just a very manly, kind of a guy. And so getting him a little cute crystal figurine was just not going to fly as a present for him. And I started stressing about this, which was kind of dumb, but I did. Um, and so I turned to my husband at the time and I said, you know what? I'm going to, we teach this thing called intent, and I'm going to set my intent that I find the perfect gift for Tom, and that it's in a really peaceful way and it just pops out and it's fun and it's going to be just perfect for him. And so then I let go. I just let go of all of that. And I started walking. I walked about a block, and about 5 minutes later, there in the middle of Prague, the Czech Republic, is the world's largest hunting and fishing store I have ever seen in my entire life. And it was like, wait a minute, was that store there before I set my intent, or did it just pop up? But you remember what I talked about, the reticular activating system. And this was before I even knew about the RAS. But I had inadvertently programmed my reticular activating system to notice that. Whereas if I had just kept walking forward another block, I wouldn't have. But when I got to the corner, I looked to the right and looked way down, and there it was. And so, of course, they had those, little shot glasses, that you drink whiskey out of. And they were great. They were these little shot glasses, and they had like, hand painted boar and birds and things that you shoot. And so I got him those. And, this was like over, 20 years ago, but they're still on his fireplace in his house to this day. So it was the perfect present for him. So I urge you to play around with setting your intent, not just in a business setting, but try doing it all the time. If you're going to set your intent to find a parking spot, why not set it for some really big things to happen? So it's time for a break, and with that, when we come back, we're going to talk about goals, and then we're going to talk about beliefs and stories.
Hey, Chris, I just wanted to add a couple, points to reinforce. Jason Smith just made a comment that he has set his intention for the day every morning after he reviews his calendar for the day. So he reviews his calendar and then sets his intent. And, we've mentioned journaling, and he's done that for the last 2.5 years and said it's very powerful. And something that we've started to do as a leadership team at C2P Enterprises is every morning we do a daily huddle, and we all share the 1 to 3 things that will make the day a great day for us. And so it kind of, coincides with this whole, idea around setting intent, and, and then, Jason's writing it down in the journaling. We're sharing it with each other as a close-knit team, and those things have been very, very powerful.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Dave, because it does make a huge difference. And what I absolutely love is to see it done in a corporate or a business setting. That's somewhat rare and unique. And I know that you guys have done really well and have got a great reputation in the industry and have blossomed in a very short time. And I wholeheartedly believe that those daily mindset practices do make a huge difference, of setting your intent, of journaling, of meditating, of creative visualization. And I love what Jason does, because when he's looking at his calendar and he's setting his intent, that really does, in a sense, he's already unconsciously visualizing the day and what he wants. And then to do that in a team effort is really huge. To do that with the team makes even a bigger difference. So thank you for sharing that.
Great. Well, we're going to go ahead and go on a break. Chris, how long would you want to break us for? I know we said 10 minutes. Are we still good on time? Can we give everyone 10 minutes? Or?
Yeah, let's just do 10 minutes. Yes.
Okay, so we will be back at 3:20 Eastern time. We'll go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to get started promptly at 3:20 Eastern time. Look forward to continuing the training session with Chris.
See you then.
Well, before.
Hi.
All right. Well, it is 20 past the hour, so we appreciate everyone being back, and we're going to get started right on time. So, Chris, we will turn it over to you and continue the show. Thank you
Okay,
so much for everything in the first half of the training.
thank you. So if you want to flash on me, Casey, zoom in on me. Thank you. So far we've talked about the whole idea of our state of mind and where we put our attention and our focus, and also the whole idea of setting your intent. And what I'll be touching about in this second half is the beliefs and the stories that we tell ourselves, and also share with you a unique way for setting goals that can guarantee a higher rate of success, because sometimes people set goals and they don't actually happen, or they unconsciously sabotage themselves. And so I'm going to share with you a strategy that goes beyond just setting a regular goal, that also ties into this whole idea of having a positive state of mind. But one thing I want to tell you is that I want to circle back on is this whole idea of bring forthism, and how we consciously create our experiences and how we incorporate the idea of our state of mind and our intent and our beliefs and goals. Years ago, it was actually the first time I did our Wealthy Mind training internationally, and it was in Australia. And so my partner and I flew to Australia, and we decided to take a little quick holiday, on the Great Barrier Reef, and to go see the beautiful coral and all of that, and had a really lovely holiday, and stayed in this little town called Port Douglas. And anyway, when it was time to leave, Cairns is actually where we were, by the Great Barrier Reef. We were going to fly over to Sydney to do our Wealthy Mind training and to introduce the whole idea of bring forthism and how we consciously create reality in our goals and wealth consciousness. And anyway, so we held a cab to get to the airport, and this cab driver shows up, puts us in his car, or we get in. And this poor guy is just in a horrible, horrible, horrible mood. And all he's doing is complaining all the way to the airport about how horrible the Australian economy is, how you just can't get ahead, and just in a really bad mood. And he says to my husband and I, so where have you guys been? What have you been doing? I said, oh, we've been hanging out in Port Douglas, right by the Great Barrier Reef. He says, oh, Port Douglas. Port Douglas is only for rich people. I'll never go to Port Douglas. Well, the thing is Port Douglas was like 10 miles up the road. It was a beach. It was open access. Anybody could go. And so you think about what I've been talking about and how he was programming his reticular activating system. And so we got, we stepped outside the cab. And by the way, this guy, he dressed nice and seemed, he didn't seem like a poor person. But I remember the Olympics were going on that summer, and Ian Thorpe was winning all these gold medals for swimming. And I turned to my husband and I said, wow, imagine if Ian Thorpe had an attitude like that. He would never win. Anyway, so we get in the plane, fly to Sydney to get there to go to deliver our program the following day, stand in the taxi queue, and we get, we get a taxi, we get inside it, and we get greeted by this taxi. And he's like, taxi driver, hello, how are you? Where can I take you? And so he was just so wonderfully positive. And he's like, look, this is your first time to Sydney. I can take you a route that's about 10 or 15 minutes longer to get to your hotel, but you'll get to see these amazing sites. And I'd love to show you if you have the time. And we're like, yeah, of course we do. And so we're with him, and he's driving, and he's saying, "Oh, I love my job," and "Oh, I'm gonna miss my job." And my husband are like, "What? Why? Why are you not going to be a taxi driver no more?" And he's like, "Oh, no, I'm retiring." And we said, "Retiring?" And he said, "Well, yeah, me and the missus, we're moving up north." And we said, "Oh, where to? Like Queensland?" Or, and he's like, "Oh, no, much further north than that. We're moving to Port Douglas." And so apparently he had hired a really good financial advisor. And even though he, was a cab driver, he had invested his money quite well over the years. He saved up really well. He clearly had a very positive state of mind. He was sitting upright in his cab, driving like this. Clearly part of him was intending for his passengers to have a good experience. And and clearly he set a goal for that and had all the beliefs in place. And it was just so perfect, because the thing I love about that story is, yes, the Australian economy wasn't doing that great at the time, but you have two cab drivers in the same job, in the same economy, doing the same thing, who have two completely different lives. And the only difference is their state of mind and their inner experience that they're creating for themselves. And so it's such a powerful story about the whole idea of bring forthism, and really how we create reality in all the different ways that we create reality. So with that, you can put the slide back up again really fast. And the next one is, before I get to goals, which will be the last, and I'm just going to very quickly highlight beliefs and unconscious stories, which is kind of tough to do, because I have some programs where literally we spend just an entire 2 days teaching people how to identify their different limiting beliefs and the unconscious stories that they tell themselves, and then how to change them. But your beliefs and your stories do impact your relationship with reality, with your future. And when you change them, it can change everything. And sometimes, people can tell themselves stories that become, they're negative, and they can become self-fulfilling prophecies. Like Steve Jobs actually had a belief or a story that he would die early. And I can't remember where that came from, but where I got it is, it's a great bio if you are an Apple fan. But it's written by Walter Isaacson, and it was written right after Jobs died. And it's the book is huge. But he said that Jobs actually told himself he was going to die early. He had that belief. He told himself that story. And that was actually what motivated him to be so prolific in his ability to create so much in such a short time, because he wanted to do it all before he died. But I had another colleague, same thing. She had been telling herself forever she was going to get cancer. She even told me that she was going to get cancer. She even collected articles on how to apparently heal cancer, uh, just in case if she ever got it. So again, it's like it's a negative story she's telling herself. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then she sadly did. She got a fourth stage ovarian cancer, and she died. And this was actually my mentor. It was like 25 years ago. So it was before I knew all this stuff. One of the things that I do, and my husband does, that we're known for, in addition to what we do with NLP and coaching and wealth consciousness, is also NLP and health applications. And my husband actually wrote a book called Beliefs, Pathways to Health and Well-Being, and we do an advanced health program. But we've had a lot of good luck working with people who have had, all kinds of serious diseases and health issues. And a big part of that has to do with the beliefs and the stories that they have about their health. And the same goes with your wealth. I like I said, I have the friend that lives paycheck to paycheck. Now he can't even pay his mortgage, and he's just got this belief and this story that he's never going to get ahead. And the thing is this is something people don't know, is you can change them. You can change them. And I'll give you a really super quick example. I'm sure everyone remembers 2008, the great stock market crash. And at the time, I just sold my training and coaching business that I'd had for 20 years in San Francisco. But at the time, we were living in San Francisco. It was October of 2008, and the stock market just started tanking. And I'm sure all of you remember, but I'm going to be honest, I panicked. My business partner did. We saw all of our enrollments just, I mean, literally overnight. And it was a really super scary time because my business was like a school. So our trainings always started around mid-October. So this was just the most horrible time you could imagine, to have the whole collapse of the market and what was happening. And so my partner and I recognized that we were feeding into this belief that we were going to fail as a business because what was going to happen. And this was a story that we had started telling ourselves. And fortunately enough, we were able to go meta to ourselves. And that's my hope, is that you'll start being able to catch yourself when you're telling yourself these negative stories and thoughts. Like some people might be telling themselves about the pandemic and the virus and their future and how's it going to affect their business and all of that. But we realized that, we were feeding into that and creating a negative self-fulfilling prophecy. And so we intentionally and consciously changed the story that we were telling ourselves about that we were going to be fine. We were going to power forward. We had always done well in times of difficulty, and that we just maintained a mindset that no matter what, we were going to make it. We were going to do whatever we had to do to make it, and we were going to be successful. And that was the story that we told ourselves. And as you can imagine, when you start telling yourself that story, it affects your state of mind. It affects your physiology. It affects where you're putting your attention and your focus. You start setting your intent for, what can I do here? What do I need to do with my marketing? What do I need to do with my customer relationships with my clients? How can I stay on top of the game? And so as a result of that, I'm happy to say that 2009 was our best year in business. So not only did we bounce back, but we bounced back huge. And so my sense is I think right now a lot of people are scared with what's happening with the market. I certainly, check the Dow a lot, as I'm sure everybody does. And and you can tell yourself whatever stories you want to tell yourself, but realize that you have a choice, and you have a conscious choice, and you can program the stories that you tell yourself. You can change them, you can update them, and it's a choice. You just have to be aware of the self-internal talk that's going on, and then make a conscious decision and a conscious choice to change those. And so we've covered, beliefs and stories and attention, state of mind, intent. And the next one is goal. And before we move to the next slide, I know I've said this, but if you look at the arrows and everything on that slide, you'll see that they all influence each other. So if you start doing all of these things, and what's great is Jason and Dave with Clarity to Prosperity, it sounds like are already doing a lot of these things. So I'm sure they can attest to the fact that when you intentionally and consciously start creating the experience that you want, you are going to create the future that you want. And it really involves doing all 5 of these things. And it might seem like a lot, but when you do start updating your thoughts, your beliefs, where you put your focus and your attention, you can literally instantly change your future in a positive way. And some ways you can do that are meditation and and I know a lot of you already meditate, and if you don't, I would urge you to research meditation. If I have time, I'll share a deep breathing technique that I do every day in the morning for 10 to 15 minutes. That's a real game changer. It's called square breathing. And if you don't know of that, look it up. But actually, if I had to choose between my breathing techniques or my meditation, and I could only do one, I'd do the breathing, although I do both and I journal too. But the breathing helps get you in the present moment, and it helps you stay focused. It energizes you. So then you have more control over your attention and your state of mind, and you just feel better. So now, what I would like to talk about are our goals. And so let's flip to that next slide really quick, Casey. Okay, so this is the reason why this slide is like that is it's supposed to look like a bullseye, or like when you thought you're throwing darts. And so the middle one is really like, that's the goal. That's where you want to program your reticular activating system, is on whatever it is that you want to create. And of course, one of the ways you can do that is with creative visualization, setting your intent, your state of mind. Casey, will you put the camera back on me, please, now?
Hey, Chris, we had another comment come in that said, again, from Jason, some of the most successful people I know practice square breathing.
Thank you. Wow, I didn't know that, Jason. I'd love to talk offline with you because it's something I started doing about a year ago, and as I said, it's just been a real game changer. And I didn't know that a lot of, he knows of a lot of successful people that do that, but it's something that I have been more and more recently talking, with my coaching clients about. And not only that, but actively teaching people in my trainings. And bear in mind, my trainings are professional development trainings. We get Stanford professors, Harvard professors, people in high tech and finance and executives, C-suite executives, and we're teaching them how to do this and the benefit of it. So it's not like it's just some weird new age thing. There are so many health benefits, and if I had more time, I have a whole lecture on that, but I'm not going to do it because we're running short on time. But I do want to say, Jason, thank you so much for bringing that up. I really, really appreciate that. So now, what I'd like to talk about is goals. So the thing is a goal has 2 parts, okay? So there's the actual bullseye part, which is what you're focusing on. So in a sense, there's a quantitative aspect to that. So I'll make something like a real simple goal up, like say you're going to have dinner tonight. And so the actual goal might be, what you're gonna have. You're gonna have a nice piece of salmon and a baked potato, and so that's the goal. Some veggies. So it's a quantitative, measurable goal that you can see. But then there's also the other aspect of a goal, which is there's the benefit and the motivation behind the goal. So it's like tonight I'll make a steak and a baked potato and veggies. So that's the actual goal. But the motivation and the benefit behind it is that really I want to make something that's healthy, that's nutritious. That tomorrow I've got a Zoom meeting with my whole team in Japan, a very important technical rehearsal for a training we're doing there. So I want to sleep good. And if I start looking at really what is the motivation behind this dinner, it's to have something nutritional, healthy, and to sleep good. But also, it's going to help me be on my best game for my training. And not only that, but if I'm on my best game for training, then I can provide a high quality for the participants. I can make it fun and easy. And ultimately, what that does is it ties me into my mission in life, which is really about making a positive difference in the world for the people I work with, which, and so when I think about eating that now, it's the motivation is very, very healthy. So with all goals, no matter whether it's a goal in business or whether it's a personal goal, you're always going to have that bullseyes that you focus off. And then you're also going to have, which is the quantitative aspect, but then there's a qualitative experience to these too. So you could think about, okay, I have a call with a client or a customer. And by the end of that call, I want the customer to have a clear, concise vision for what they can do and what's possible. So then I might ask, well, so what does achieving that goal get for you? What is the benefit of you really helping a customer? And that benefit might be, the motivation. Well, it enhances the relationship, it enriches the relationship, it could potentially create a long-term future with this client. It ties into my mission to really help people in a really robust way. So there's those two types of aspects to goal. So Casey, can we flip to the next slide? Okay. So now this is really creating a well-formed goal for creating your future. This is something that I drill this into my coaching students in every single training that I teach, this formula for a well-formed goal for them to do with their clients. I do it with all of my clients every single time I get on the phone with a client. And this is something that you can do with your clients and customers. And what I'd like you to do now, though, is take yourself through it, because the best way to often learn is to get it in experience. So you might want to grab a pencil and a paper and think of a goal. What do you want? So think of a goal. What is it that you want? And make sure that it's something that's in the positive. So like, for example, I had a friend that said, well, she wanted to quit smoking. And so I had her reframe it to wanting to really get healthy. But think of some type of a goal. It can be big or small. It can be something work related. What do you want? Could be maybe you've got a video call with somebody and you just really want to do good on that call. Or maybe you've been feeling down lately and you want to feel more upbeat. So, and make sure that the goal is positive. In other words, be certain to indicate what you do want as opposed to what you don't want. So rather than setting a goal to not be nervous during a job interview, you can set a goal to be calm and confident instead. And keeping it positive makes it easier for your unconscious mind to sort for feelings of calmness and confidence. So if you set a goal to not be nervous, then you unconsciously have to sort for being nervous. Now, the other thing is you want to make sure that the goal is under your control and it can be initiated by you. So setting a goal for, your neighbor to quit being a jerk is you can't control the way your neighbor is going to be. The only thing you can control is your own behavior and your own attitude towards your neighbor. So instead, you want to set a goal to be more, assertive or more accepting or more calm and confident with that neighbor. So you want to make sure your goal is stated in positive terms. You want to make sure that it's under your control. And then the next one is the context. So when you think about your goal, where, when, and with whom do you want it? So where, when, and with whom do you want it? And I do a lot of business development coaching with people, especially people who want to start coach practices, because so many of my students are coaches or want to be coaches, and so that's their goal, is they want to be a coach. And so I went from 1 to 3, and I did that intentionally, just so you know. Those are a little out of order. So and often I'll ask them, so where and when do you want to start your coach practice? And suddenly it becomes really real to them, because suddenly now there's a date that they haven't thought of. And so what do you want? And the next question is where, when, and with whom do you want it? And then the third one, which is number 2, so I'm going 1, 3, 2. Sorry about that. I know that drives some of you crazy. I apologize for that. Is what's your evidence for having achieved this goal? So if you actually step in now and you imagine that you have indeed achieved this goal, it's done. What will you be feeling and seeing and hearing to let you know that you actually achieved your goal? So what will you see? What will be your evidence? What will you, how will you be feeling about it? What will you be hearing yourself say, your negative talk? What will other people be saying to you? And as you do that, you can even run a movie of you having achieved your goal, and what would that look like? And again, this is something that Bianca and Andreescu, the one that won the US Open, or Tiger Woods, or Michael Jordan, or Kobe Bryant, or a lot of people that are successful do. You run a movie of you achieving your goal. What would that look like? So it's what do you want, and then when and where and with whom do you want it? And what will you see, hear, and feel to let you know that you've achieved it? And if you were to run a movie of you achieving your goal, what would it look like? And again, if you think about the reticular activating system in your brain, you're literally, when you take yourself through these questions, you are programming your brain for success. So the more clear and specific you can get in your answers, the easier it's going to be for your reticular activating system to help you create what it is that you want. And this all ties in then suddenly when you have a goal, it ties into your state of mind, your physiology, your intent, even your beliefs and your stories. And and then you can think about, well, what's the benefit of you achieving your goal? What good things will happen from you achieving your goal? So what are all the good things that are going to happen for you when you achieve your goal, or for people around you? And how's that going to feel? And when you get into the feeling of that, it helps you make it even more so a reality, and it helps motivate you. And so these are all questions that you can ask your clients, and you can do it in a very conversational way. You don't even have to tell them what you're doing. I don't ever tell my clients, okay, we're going to do a well-formed goal. I'll just say, I'll start every call, well, what do you want? When and where do you want it? Who do you want it with? And just run through those questions. And then the last one is, are there any barriers to achieving your goal? And usually 75% of the time, or even, it's even fair to say 80 or even higher, there's no barriers. People are they're good to go. But once in a blue moon, for somebody, a barrier does pop up. I'll give you an example. I was working with a guy who lived in Sacramento, California, and he wanted to become a motivational speaker, and he wanted to travel all over the country and be giving, motivational speeches and doing motivational trainings. And so we went through, those first 4 questions, and everything was good. And then we got to the end, and I said, well, is there any downside to you achieving your goal? Who else might it affect? And he went, oh my gosh, I've got 2 small children, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. If I'm gone out traveling all the time, then that's, I'm not going to see my kids. And so that was a huge, massive downside. So that's where, you have to kind of start back over again. Okay, well, so what do you want then? How can you still achieve this dream and do it in a way that's going to allow you to be with your kids? And by the way, one of the most recent book I wrote is called Powerful Questions and Techniques for Coaches and Therapists, and that's a powerful question. Okay, well, so if you want to stay home with your kids, but you still want this dream, how can you do that? And so what he decided to do was to start a training and coaching company in Sacramento. And he just basically stayed home. He started doing trainings in Sacramento. It became very, very successful. And actually, when his kids hit teenagers, they both got involved in the business and helped him. And so, so typically there isn't going to be a downside to somebody achieving a goal, but you still want to ask that, just to keep in mind the whole ecology of the system. But those are some questions that you can ask to help people get clear on those on really how to create more of what they want. So with that, I think it's about time to wrap it up. And so during this time with you, we've talked about this whole idea of how to really have an empowered mindset to take charge of your life, to be able to consciously create more of what it is that you want versus what you don't want. And you've learned about the whole idea of where you put your attention and your focus. You've learned about, maintaining a positive state of mind, or whatever state of mind you want to have, whether it be more confident or curious, connecting, and how you can set your intent for the kind of experience that you want to have, and also how you can set goals in such a way that are more robust, so that it aligns you with this idea of being able to really creatively and visualize what you want, run a movie of it, and you've even got a structure now for how to create a goal. And then, of course, the stories and the beliefs that you have, and be more aware of your self-talk and what you're saying to yourself, and update those. And so if you want to contact me, you can contact me at chrishallbaum@gmail.com. My phone number is 801-884-8115. I would direct you